Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Thomas. Today we're back here with Phantom Strider. It's just got uploaded. It's Nintendo games that were pulled from stores. Yeah. I don't know if they were bad just because they, I guess they were pulled because either were bad or just didn't work out well, I guess. I'm just kind of curious to see what Nintendo pulled off the shelves and we're like, okay, yeah, we gotta get rid of these. Shall we check it out? Be sure to like, subscribe for more. Hope you enjoy. Here we go.
You remember to turn the water off, right? Ghosts aren't covered by my insurance. We'll just have to say it was my gross incompetence.
Ew.
Howdy.
Howdy.
In the past, there might have been a Nintendo game you've wanted to play, but sometimes they can be randomly pulled from online stores. Sometimes for fair reasons, other times for incredibly stupid reasons. For some of these games, unless a physical copy is kept of the game, they can actually become lost media. And that can be not just a tragic loss of art, but a tragic loss of hundreds of hours of work. Nice simple title today.
True.
These are Nintendo games pulled from online stores. We'll mainly focus on the Switch games that have been delisted, but we'll also look at some games that were pulled from the 3DS, the Wii, and the Wii U. And obviously today,
So,
the
digital
older
media
console
stuff, okay.
stores like the Wii and 3DS are all shut down. But we'll focus on the games that were delisted before the stores shut down. Why did they have to leave the stores
That makes
early?
sense.
With that said, let's
Let's
begin.
So what's first?
Let's start with Super Mario Bros. 35 on the Nintendo Switch. Of course it's Nintendo Switch. What do you think, it's Sony Switch? It's a stupid thing to say. Let's start with Super Mario Bros. 35 on the Switch. Did you
Basically
know
Mario
that
Battle
Nintendo
Royale.
released temporarily a multiplayer Mario Battle Royale game? Emphasis on temporarily. This was probably the most popular recommendation from my community. It was named Mario 35 since it was a celebration of Mario's 35th anniversary. It was a free downloadable game for Nintendo Switch Online players back in 2020, but its servers were shut down in April 2021 and it was removed from the eShop completely. Why? Well, this is what someone in my community thought.
Probably my favourite online battle royale game. But since Nintendo actively hates us, crying face.
The game itself is actually pretty wild. Although on a basic level you play the run and jump platforming of the original 32 levels of the 1985 Mario, you're playing it alongside 34 other players in a battle royale. There are a lot of fun little additions, like you could vote which level to start on and in what order you'd play the levels in. And there were these special battle events that had a different theme every week. And if you collected 20 coins, you'd get a roulette of power-ups that supercharge you. A roulette system similar to Mario Kart. There are a bunch of other cool
there are
additions,
other ways
like
you can,
enemies you defeat could be sent to one of the other 34 players' worlds, as an additional nuisance
basically,
to them.
you
But if that
lose.
timer in the corner reaches 0, you are KO'd from the match. Watching a skilled player face off against 34 other players was honestly pretty fascinating and wild to see. This player we're seeing, JC4U2, eventually managed to KO every single one of the other 34 players. I could see from the comments alone that tons of people missed this game. But it was free and it wasn't making Nintendo money, so it had to go after Celebration ended. This bugs me because, well, life is hard enough as is. People deserve nice things. You have money, Nintendo, you have crap tons of money. Let people have nice things.
Come on,
And
let's
while
have
we're
some
on the
fun, huh?
subject of Nintendo being jerks, let's discuss another famous delisted game. Super Mario 3D
Oh, yeah.
All-Stars.
I remember this
How
one.
about a portable remake of the most iconic, groundbreaking 3D game ever created? Also Mario Sunshine. How about now making it artificially scarce
And
for no
don't
reason
forget the,
beyond corporate
Galaxy.
greed?
That was in there, too.
What's that? You missed buying the game before it was delisted?
Too bad.
Too bad, so sad.
Bye-bye.
Good luck buying it off the scalpers. From my understanding, Nintendo removed
don't
this
worry, I already
game
got it
to mimic
downloaded.
the Disney Vault strategy. Basically, Disney used to make their movies available, then remove them later, so people would feel FOMO, fear of missing out.
Yeah.
This resulted in more people buying the Disney movies so they didn't miss out on it. It's dirty, but sadly it's an effective strategy. By Nintendo temporarily making these games available on the Switch, they sold over 9 million copies. Unless you couldn't afford the game at the time or wanted to spend your money elsewhere, which is perfectly understandable. They don't make these games cheap. Sadly, this happened to Kaylee in my community.
I've been wanting to save up for this since it was around $60 US. But now when I look it up, it's over $100 US and not in the eShop. I have Galaxy on the Wii, but I don't have the other two games. Sad day.
Yeah, unless you
Sorry
want to
hear you
emulate
missed
it, then
Kaylee.
good luck.
With that being said, I can't blame people who did buy it. Even with barely any changes, Super Mario 64, Mario Galaxy and Mario Sunshine are an incredible combination of games to get on the Switch. I have so many
all three in
formative
one.
memories from when I was 8 playing Mario 64. All I would do was just jump and run around the castle outside and I had a hell of a time. It had never felt so versatile and outright fun, just making Mario jump and run around outside going yah, wah, whoo. Mario's first 3D adventure was a hell
just
of
do
a
the
jump
backwards
start
long
for
jump that you
3D.
see.
So yeah, it was like teasing a carrot in front of a donkey with very good hand-eye coordination. Anyway, and what do you know? 4 years later, hawkers are selling these games for $140 each on eBay. That being said, we had the portable remastered Mario 64 DS version available many years earlier in 2004.
Yeah, that
and
had
that
the
game
core-
had a
the-
lot of
the
additions in it, back when Nintendo wasn't on the top of the market and actually had to try. Anyway, my disappointment aside, the games are almost identical to their original, but with a bare minimum update in resolution and a stable 30 frames per second. In Mario 64,
Could've been
Mario's
worse,
face
but-
has a higher texture, and the only other change I could find was a really weird one. Back in the original, when
Oh, yeah,
Mario
just
would
like,
throw Bowser
"So
in the
long,
boss
King
area,
Bowser!"
he'd say, but in the new version he says, bye-bye. Apparently
Yeah,
this
true.
is because he's not called Bowser in Japan, but Koopa. Let's hang on this point one sec. A lot of people used to think he said, so long, Bowser, but I always thought he said,
It's-
me Bowser. You know, in like a really
So long,
basic
me Bowser.
Italian accent or something. Eh, my Bowser. Okay, we're moving on. Next
Yeah.
up, we have this
I mean, I'm not surprised people thought it was Gay Bowser. It does sound like it, you know? Can't blame them for making us hear what we want to hear, I guess. Whatever works, I guess. What do you guys think? What do you think he said? So long, King Bowser, or so long, Gay Bowser? I guess I didn't want to deal with the meme again, so they switched it up. At least that's how I see what happened, but anyway. Next up, we got a game called Mirror. Wonder what that got. What happened to this one?
Switch title, Mirror. It's a waifu puzzle game, kinda like Candy Crush. Match 3 shapes and will do damage to your opponent. The original Steam game even had RPG elements built in and a stronger story.
Wow.
Really?
These women have really big...
Personalities.
Yeah.
They must have a hard time bra shopping.
Well, originally
Yeah, that
they
does
apparently didn't even bother with those. The original
Oh,
Steam
boy.
version contained both
Oh, yeah,
nudity,
nudity
and
and
sexual
hentai.
content. But obviously, this was removed for the Switch version. Apparently, the cutting had to go so far to remove all this content that
Damn.
some character stories were altered completely. But these lovely ladies remained our opponents in these Candy Crush
Yeah.
games that we have to lower the health of.
I wonder if they have to get their bras custom made.
Honey,
Probably.
please stop tempting the YouTube censors.
But lots of ladies go bra shopping.
Yeah, I know, but YouTube has weird standards. It doesn't make
Yeah.
sense to me either. Anyway, the
You ain't-
Switch
you ain't
debut
wrong.
of these
You ain't
ladies
wrong.
was delisted in 2021. The exact reason it was removed is
Performance
vague at
issues.
best. In my community, Kawaii Ruby suggested a
Too hanky
reason,
panky.
Mirror got taken
Fair.
off the Switch for being too hanky-panky.
but it may have also been due to the Switch version's abysmal reviews. This
Yeah.
cut version was not loved by critics. It was almost universally panned, such as this critic, El Pabado.
0 out of 10. The fact that this even has a Nintendo Switch version is wild. They deleted every scene, so it's not even a hentai game. It's Candy Crush.
Lo-Fi Lady was
Yeah,
a big
that
fan
does
of
sound
the
about
original
right.
Steam version.
I don't know who
This
came
is
up
one
with
of
the
my
idea of this,
favourite
but
games on Steam.
whatever.
But they had to completely rewrite the game for Switch. And the new dialogue is some of the worst writing I've ever seen put to paper.
Anyway, I probably spent
mean,
too much
that's
time
kinda what
dawdling
you
on
get.
a game you don't even know
Sorry, I had to
about,
go
so
there.
let's move on. Next up,
next.
we have the game Meme
Meme
Run on the Wii U. Oh, using the word game for this is being very generous. 5 seconds of this game was enough for me. I think one of my patron
Saying?
bosses, Melanie, summed it up
Copyright
well when
violations,
she
poor quality
suggested this
game,
game.
bright visuals,
This game
yeah.
is an absolute doozy. copyright violations, poor quality gameplay, loud, bright visuals, this game is the living embodiment of a headache.
And yeah, this is one of the very
I probably
worst
played this
games
like,
I've ever seen.
oh,
It's
my
art.
ears.
It's art. Let's try and figure out why it was removed from the eShop. I mean, for one, it stinks, and I don't think anyone would miss it. I remember back in the day, Nintendo had this thing called the quote-unquote Nintendo Seal of Quality. Did this game actually get the Nintendo Seal of Quality?
I don't think
feel
they even
it
do
says
that
a lot
anymore.
about the Seal of Quality if it did.
they?
Or do they not do that anymore? Anyway, this game being bad is no reason to not at least preserve it. What do you say for gameplay on this thing? It's an endless run-up platformer that is very annoying to look at, and very loud and very irritating.
Just keep it on
You
the
play
PC,
as a
thank
stick
you.
figure
It doesn't
troll
look like
face
even worth the
head.
price.
Nintendo Seal of Quality. But no, it wasn't removed for being low quality and a disgrace to Nintendo's legacy. Do you remember some of that
Shame.
Wii shovelware we had back in the day? Anyway. The reason it was
fair.
actually removed from the eShop is due to the unlicensed use of Trollface by the developers.
Really? The
Because clearly
Trollface?
someone had to preserve the sanctity of Trollface. The owner of Trollface explained themselves on Reddit.
I own the copyright to Trollface. I sent a DMCA takedown notice to Nintendo. I want to try and settle the matter amicably. My lawyers have been busy working on another case for Trollface, and I prefer to let them handle my legal representation.
Yeah, that's quite the story to tell your grandkids. I
sue
sternly
Nintendo
enforce
over
the copyright
Trollface.
ownership of an ugly 2-second MS Paint
I'm a
drawing
boomer.
slapped over a stick figure. When the game was criticized for having
haven't been like-
abysmal
yeah,
gameplay,
alright, boomer.
the creator, Jordan, responded
Oh,
with
interesting.
this.
It was a parody intended to troll gamers. My friends in college enjoyed my game.
Well, I'm glad they did, but maybe
Again,
next time,
maybe
Jordan,
stick
keep
to
the
the
game
PC,
just
yeah.
among your college friends or post it on itch.io. Because I just
Or-
can't imagine Meme Run being a game many people want to pay money to experience.
Yeah, I'm good. Next.
The next game removed is Adventure Time.
Time,
Explore the dungeon because I don't know.
know.
However you choose to use
Why
it,
this
I
thing?
consider your time extremely valuable. So I'm going to hold up a sign and make a sound whenever a game runs into licensing issues.
Yeah.
And yep, Adventure
see.
Time Explore the Dungeon Because I Don't Know is the first to run into these licensing issues. We just got ourselves a basic top-down dungeon crawler where we play as Finn, Jake, Marceline, or Cinnamon Bun, if you're into that.
Really?
Though it's
Cinnamon
worth
Bun?
mentioning, this game
that,
did
but-
receive
oh.
very mixed reviews. Personally,
that
I
one
like
bad?
a good dungeon crawler with a beautiful art style, but outlets like IGN weren't as kind to this game.
For a game based on Adventure Time, this has so little imagination. No cool enemies, no secret passageways, no mini quests, and the enemies are generic. It's a stunning disappointment. 3.5 stars.
Still though, that doesn't mean this game should disappear. I think all these games should have an opportunity to be preserved. But as we'll see as we continue, a lot of games
not
like
everyone
this aren't
agrees.
getting the chance to be preserved.
Oh,
Our next
strong bad.
delisted
Bye-bye.
game is Fitness Boxing on the Switch. I really enjoyed the old boxing game on the Wii Sports. It gave me a chance in gaming
why
to
this
get
one?
off the
Oh.
couch and actually do some gaming on my feet. Though Fitness Boxing is designed with the Switch controllers in mind. It sounds like a great idea. Unfortunately, it's more like Wii Fit boxing with music. Punch icons to the beats. Woohoo! Obviously, some people enjoyed it, but this was considerably less interesting to me than the boxing on the Wii. Anyway, in 2023,
there are boxing
Nintendo
games, but you
announced
just
on
gotta find
Twitter that they were removing fitness boxing from the Switch shops. Why though?
Licensing.
In this case, the licenses
Oh.
expired on a lot of the game's music. That
Oops.
being said, Fitness Boxing 2 and 3 are now available on the Switch, and they look like the same freaking game with barely any changes whatsoever. So I guess if you really feel like boxing to the rhythm, at least as an option. Seeing this game has made me kind of want to try Ring Fit Adventure though. I've heard that game's okay. I miss those Wii physical
try that
movement games, you know? Next up we have the
Cooking
notorious
Mama.
Cooking Mama Cookstar game on the Switch. What could possibly be
What
wrong
happened
with
here?
an innocent Cooking Mama game? Sure, these games breed like rabbits,
So,
but
what
Cooking Mama's
happened?
been hanging out in the kitchen since the DS days. It's her thing, you know? But Cookstar was pulled from online stores just hours after its release.
Really?
After rumors the
Let me
game
guess.
hijacked the user's Nintendo Switch to secretly mine for cryptocurrency. While
Oh.
most involved have been very
Oops.
secret about this game's controversy and what happened, we fortunately
Is it
do
back?
have information from an anonymous whistleblower. The whistleblower claimed to work for one of the companies involved with Cookstar. Apparently, for many on the development team, this was the first time they'd made a game. These
Really?
developers struggled to even use game tools like Unity. Cookstar ran horribly,
Ouch.
it would crash a lot, and often cause the Switch batteries to overheat. According to this source, the whole
crap.
controversy of it mining for cryptocurrency is false. What actually happened was, the game producers were only discussing using crypto chain technology for online transactions. But apparently this cryptocurrency technology was never actually used, so it was basically just buzzwords for investors. But given most of these
Yeah, that does
developers
sound
never
about right.
actually made a game before, how does Cookstar actually play? According to reviewers, dreadful. We have some of the worst, most broken voice acting here I've ever heard in a game in 2020.
Getting hungry.
Seriously, Japan, how hard is it to get someone who speaks English to voice act your game for the English dub? My community is
Yeah.
packed to the brim with voice actors who desperately want work. Hell, I'd have done this game just for free, just for the fun of it. For the game in general, according to IGN,
Play a sequence of simple and repetitive mini games that have you cook food, then take a photo of your creation. You can post these on social media if you want to send your friends an obvious cry for help.
the poor quality was actually
Honestly, that does sound like Cookie Mama in general. Just the whole, following the beat and all that, I guess. Better minigames? Yeah, that does sound like Cookie Mama in a way. What? I'm just saying. It's kind of knowing the trend, you know? I mean, I'm not sure if it's true nowadays or... Actually, is it even back yet? Still, imagine if there was a game that it turned out that was using your system mined Bitcoin. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that was actually possible, but... I mean, I doubt they go that far, but... knowing the gaming industry, I wouldn't be surprised. Anyway.
the main reason this game was removed from stores. The producers of the game didn't listen to the IP's feedback of the game being terrible quality and below the standards of Cooking Mama games. Rather than trying to fix these obvious
Honestly, I would've
problems,
been
the
like-
producers just released the game anyway, without
Yeah.
the consent of the
Ugh.
original IP holders. So the IP immediately terminated their license with these game developers. Basically, the original owners of this game were so ashamed of it that they refused to release it. We've got to look after Cooking Mama's reputation. She's got meals to cook.
Get your own.
Our next delisted
Next.
games are the original Grand
Grand
Theft
Theft
Auto
Auto.
games on the Switch. This one's a bit of a weasel call, as technically
Oh,
the
right.
remastered versions of the Grand Theft Auto are available on the Switch. But these
Wait,
original
wasn't
Grand
that-
Theft Auto games were removed from stores not for the reason you might be thinking. It wasn't violence or hot coffee mods, but instead, all the original games were removed and replaced on all platforms with the quote-unquote definitive edition.
Oh yeah, the trilogy.
This definitive edition contained all the original 3D games. Grand Theft Auto 3, Vice City, and my favorite of the series, San Andreas, with updated textures, draw distance, that
So,
sort of thing. But the original Grand Theft Auto games are almost impossible to find now unless you have a physical copy. Which I did have the original San Andreas 17 years ago, but I have no idea where I put it. It's probably in a CD wallet somewhere. And this decision to remove all the original games was met with a lot of
Yeesh.
criticism, because this definitive edition was met with a lot of mixed reviews. And when I say
Soulless
mixed, I mean
and-
overwhelmingly hated by fans. With a score of 1.1
Yeah, 1.
out of 10 based on 4,436
Overwhelming
ratings.
disliked.
Wow. According to Adrian from IGN,
A textbook example of how not to remaster games from the PlayStation 2 era. These defective releases are desecrations of the 3 classic titles. They
Oops.
deserved much better treatment.
when asked on Reddit about the
I think they
removal
would've
of the
made sure
games,
that's the
viewers
stuff,
were
but
less
oops.
than pleased. According to the most upvoted comment,
Pretty grade A f***ed of them to remove their shit from the store. Also, they can profit from the new and not make themselves look extra bad.
The game used to be
Hey.
ridiculously crashy and buggy and have all sorts of
I didn't know
problems,
it
but
still works
nowadays
now.
they've improved in quality significantly because of many patches over years and years.
Yeah, but
And when I played the
too late for
remastered
that,
edition of
considering
San
I don't think
Andreas
anyone's playing
last
them.
year, I found it mostly worked fine. But Rockstar making these Grand Theft Auto games completely
Yeah.
unavailable has left a bad taste with many fans.
Yeah.
Same old
Bye-bye.
CJ. Buster. Straight Buster.
Next up, we have Fire Emblem, Shadow Dragons, and the Blade of Light. This was among the first tactical
Yeah.
role-playing games that started
think
it all
that's the
way
original.
back in 1990. And for a brief time, a 30-year anniversary edition of it was released on Switch. But once again, this classic
Limited
game was
release,
quickly
some FOMO.
removed after the anniversary. And now it sells for between $130 and $250 from scalpers. Well done. Why remove the first tactical JRPG of all time from being readily available on modern systems?
FOMO.
I don't know, to be jerks, I guess. We have a very strange choice next. A Dark Room. I'll be brief, because this
Eh?
game isn't very well known, and it's about as indie as you can get. It's a text-based adventure game for $7. But it is a fun story on
does
how to get
seem like
Nintendo
that.
to never ever work with you again. Ever. You see, the
What
person
happened?
who converted this game to Switch
Amarillo
added
Raja.
a secret Ruby code editor and runner to the game's Easter eggs. According to Amir,
Mm-hmm.
This effectively turns every consumer Nintendo Switch into a Ruby machine.
What's a Ruby machine?
this allowed any owner of the game to write and run their own apps on their Switches. No hacking required. Surprising no one, Nintendo wasn't a fan of this and quickly
Oh,
pulled the
so a
game
hacker-
from stores. They added the game back later with the code editor removed, but you know, it's still a fun story. Our next removed
that
game is
explains it.
Growtopia. Just a quick
What now?
mention about this old 2012 relic, because it's kind of nice to be reminded that microtransactions don't always make a company rich. This is a weird 2D MMO from the past, and it tried to financially sustain itself on the Switch with microtransactions. But it was so unsuccessful in selling to players that the game was delisted from the Nintendo store and shut down. Almost like microtransactions aren't the best business model. Personally, I tend to prefer when I can just buy a game. But when you're pressuring yourself, it's kind of nice to have a reminder that not every online game is a Roblox level of success. In fact, the vast majority of online microtransaction games aren't even 1/100th as successful as Roblox. I don't know, maybe there's a weird thing for me
Yeah.
to take solace in, but as someone who nearly lost their job due to lack of interest if not for Patreon, I kind of appreciate a reminder that not every online project is a ginormous success. And our next game that was delisted
just
is
gotta back up.
Pac-Man 99. Gee, Battle Royale games was such a thing for a while, weren't they? And here we have a remastered
You thank
arcade
Fortnite for that,
classic turned
and,
into a Battle
PUBG.
Royale as well. And honestly, it looked like a good time. I remember seeing someone play this one way back in 2021. It's a very similar system to Mario 35, but given both games are made by the same company Eureka, yeah, that makes sense. Except instead of 35 players like
Yep,
in Mario,
nearly 100.
this one involves playing against 99 players. Similar to Mario 35, any enemies you defeat are sent to other players, and across 99 players, that can cause some major chaos on screen if you're watching. But the game was removed from stores in 2023, no longer able to be purchased from stores. And the online servers shut down, so even if you own the game, only
Dang.
offline mode could be accessed. Sadly, player counts rise and fall quickly on these games. I think Super Ben explained it well in my community.
They delisted this in favour of Chomp Champs, but I bet that one won't last long either, considering its player count.
Some of these online
Yeah.
games just can't last as player interest just comes and goes. That being said, you also have games like Counter-Strike,
Counter-Strike.
which managed to run their servers for 15 to 20 years.
Yeah.
Yet Nintendo has apparently
And TF2,
so
don't
strapped
forget
for
that.
cash that they
That was
can't
made
keep
in
a few
2007
cheap
and still
servers
people are
running
still
for their
playing it, you know?
low-traffic eShop games. But maybe it's more complicated and expensive than that. I'm not an expert, I don't know. Knowing Nintendo,
Yeah, honestly, with some games, you gotta figure, like, okay, what's gonna make people come back for more? Like, we can go the multi-route, we can go microtransactions, events, all that. But you get the idea. Sometimes games are just like, yeah, they're just seesawing of like, hey, we got a player, they're gone, they're back, they're gone. Like, take Battlefield 2042. Like, that had a huge hype, fell off, but like what Badger said, once the updates come back in, up they went. figured if we check the Steam page, it tells me that's gonna... Just saying. I mean, heck, Concord in the last 12 days. Like, no one was even interested. Anyway.
No, maybe it's a Rika footing the server bill. Either way, not many online games come even close to Counter-Strike's success, so I get it. These last two have kind of been downers. Hey,
anything else?
How's the Hello Kitty religion going?
We're going to Hello Kitty Land. It's
That's a
a
thing?
theme park in Japan. Wanna go with us?
Does it involve me seeing Hello Kitty?
Lots of Hello Kitty.
Well,
Pass.
on Google, it does manage 4 stars out of 10,000 reviews.
Being a pretty
Well, alright, but I want a waffle cone. Our next delisting is the Hokkaido cereal murder case. You know,
What?
Easter eggs can be a tasty chocolate
What
treat
now?
from the Easter Bunny, or sometimes they can nearly kill franchises, such as the hot coffee Easter egg in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas.
Wasn't that
But
a
in
mod,
this
though?
case, its Easter egg got it pulled from the eShop. The game's like a Phoenix Wright style point-and-click adventure game. Characters actually have voice acting here and more than one frame of animation.
すでに地元の警察が調べを行っているようです。
We investigate a body found in Tokyo Bay and have to solve a murder case. So, you know, a good standard Phoenix Wright
Yeah?
episode. But it wasn't quite a hot coffee Easter egg that got it removed, much more subtle. You see, at one point we're chatting to our friend Megami here in the bathhouse, and if you wait long enough, Megami drops her towel and shows a bathing suit area. And in the Western
Oops.
world, Megami flashing the player was
That's
apparently
no good.
Even someone who uploaded footage of the game was contacted in the comments by the publisher. The publisher said in the YouTube comments,
Hello, this is Gmode Corporation. The videos shown here are outside the guidelines we have established for you. We are sorry, but could you remove this video?
the guidelines. What? What are you talking
Wait, what
about?
guidelines? Did I
Anyway,
miss
that
something
brief
here?
flash of nudity was enough to get the game taken down permanently in e-stores in English-speaking countries. I guess they're
Yeah, I was
keeping
like,
kids
yo,
safe from
Gmo,
knowing
you
human
put that
anatomy.
in. What
Well
are you
done,
doing?
Nintendo. I don't know. We're moving on. Our next delisted
Yeesh,
game
next.
is Rhythm Heaven Megamix on the 3DS. I mostly mention it because I want to talk about Flow. This was a 3DS digital exclusive, but is now legally unavailable anywhere if you want to play it in English.
Oh.
But I wanted to at least mention it because I love these micro games. It's
Yeah,
not like
true. Rhythm is
WarioWare,
actually
and like
pretty
that,
fun to
it's
watch,
very
you know?
memorable. But now,
True.
if you want to play these games, I just can't think of any possible way you can.
Yeah.
There's no way to play these games. No possible way. No.
Sorry.
The game is
Had to do
all
it.
about reaching that state of quote-unquote flow that I mentioned earlier. The same thing I'd find in a good game of Dance Dance Revolution, or maybe juggling. Both give me a state of flow. It's a case where I'm not thinking excessively about what I'm doing, I'm just doing.
Going with the flow, yeah.
It's experiencing a game or an activity in full. In this person's case, perfectly drumming
Psycho.
along to the beat of Megalomania. Strumming along on a guitar, being absorbed in a game. It's a state of being, and it's a nice state to be. And the game talks to you and teaches you about this state. And even that aside, the game's funny, it's bizarre, it's colorful, it speaks to the player, but like a human being. And not in that meta
also the
winking
Mega
way.
Mixes.
And it's
Oh
always
boy.
a shame to see these type of creative games taken off all stores. Because there aren't even physical copies of this game, it's basically lost media. I tell you, there's just no way we can preserve these games. We'll never find them again. They're gone forever. Yeah, okay, we'll move on. Next up, we have
Next up,
Metal Gear
Metal Gear
Solid
Solid
2 and 3 on the Switch.
Let me guess,
Both Metal Gear
performance
Solid
issues?
2 and 3 were temporarily removed from the e-store. And fun fact, this is
temporary.
actually one of my favorite game series of all time. And Metal Gear Solid 3 was the first game I got after saving up for my own PS2 as a teenager. I put $10 a week into that lay-by for like 7 months. Anyway, I was surprised to hear that these games were taken off Nintendo, Xbox, and PlayStation
Wait.
stores back in 2021.
Over historical
But you'd be
footage
surprised at the
licenses?
tiny
Oh, boy.
reason these games are removed. Because the game dared show some historical footage and there were... Yep,
Licensing again.
issues. Apparently, rather than
Yeesh,
cutting the
well, not the
footage,
check
they had
if
to
they're-
remove
hey,
these
good.
games from stores completely. The
Oops.
game's publisher, Konami, released a press
Hmm.
statement to explain.
Thank you for playing the Metal Gear series. We are currently working on renewing licenses for historical footage used in game. Therefore, we have begun suspending the sale of Metal Gear Solid 2, Metal Gear Solid 3, and all products that include these games from digital stores globally. You can't play it Go away.
But obviously by 2024, they'd
Yeah,
renewed
we
the
got it back.
licenses and these games returned for the Master Collection. And yeah, I replayed them all in the Master Collection. And yeah, that speech from the Patriots AI aged disturbingly well.
But in the current digitized world, trivial information is accumulating every second, preserved in all its triteness.
This game was made 23 years ago too. How did Hideo predict the future so well? It's crazy. Oh,
Yeah,
I
no
had to
kidding.
mention this
Oh,
one.
here we go, Strong Bad.
Bad's cool game for attractive people. Yeah, that's the actual name of the game, as Homestar and his friends can't even state a title without making me smirk. I had to at least mention this one, as this is my favorite internet show of all time.
Hata! There's the cheat. Where the heck is your shirt? Your gloves are stupid. I hate you. Holmes, California.
But the Strong Bad game series was delisted without much fanfare or notice from anyone.
For licensing
Why was
reasons
it
again.
delisted? Yep, you
Yep,
got it.
again.
I adore these games and will literally watch playthroughs of them in the background while I'm working. And luckily, my brother Raz first bought me copies of these games when they first came out on GOG. So I still have access, but for new people, it's lost media. But Reddit was the one place they did notice it was delisted. They asked the question,
Are there not enough attractive people anymore?
to which another replied,
They all died in a huge gasoline montage explosion.
one
Zoolander
person
much?
proposed this to explain it.
There's still attractive people, but not enough
God.
to keep up with the increasing maintenance costs.
Okay, sorry, let's move on.
we're
And
done.
last but not least, we
Oh, last
have
one.
Jump
Jump
Force
Force. Oh,
Deluxe
yeah.
Edition. Jump Force is like a collaboration fighting game of the most popular anime characters. It was a 3D arena fighting game meant to celebrate bringing all these popular anime characters
Jump.
together. All the characters from Shonen Jump, and they own a lot of popular characters.
True.
For example,
Naruto,
you might
Yu-Gi-Oh,
have heard
Dragon
of
Ball
Dragon
Z.
Ball, or One Piece, Bleach, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and Naruto. Even if you're not an anime fan, you've probably heard of at least one of those. Unfortunately, not a lot of fans were happy with this game. It was met with some mixed reviews. The
It might have been
combat
for-
was often seen as repetitive and mediocre, and the story has writing quality on par with Kingdom Hearts. Yes, I realize that's a harsh criticism on Jump Force. But in 2022, Namco announced that Jump Force would be removed from all digital stores and the game's servers would be shut down. So why was it removed? Most likely...
Licensing.
Yep. Changing or expiring character rights are probably the reason Jump Force Deluxe was taken down.
Considering the
And it
franchise,
was
I'm surprised
thoroughly
Nintendo had 'em run
scrubbed
into
from
that.
all devices, Xbox,
know.
Switch, PlayStation, even PC. And of course, when a
Bye-bye.
game's taken off digital stores, it becomes a scalper's dream. As of this video, copies on Amazon were selling for around $260. I recommend giving these Jump Force games a skip. Definitely don't buy them at that price. I do like to try and end these videos on a positive note, but I do think making these games digitally unavailable is a genuine problem. And Nintendo themselves don't seem too concerned over preservation of art. Nowadays, they seem more concerned over suing fan games, suing any healthy competition they have, and just monopolizing the industry. But so many games that took hundreds of hours of development are disappearing from reach and becoming lost media because of issues as petty as licensing. Or if a game server is too quiet, the whole thing has got to shut down. It's a shame there's so much legal red tape, because a game that's
Pretty much.
abandoned should just be free to whoever wants to try it or preserve it. It's not like anyone's making money off it. And even if they try and hide it, I can assure you, Nintendo, there's plenty of people out there who will try and preserve and save these games from disappearing. They don't care how much Nintendo bullies them. They'll be back, just as I will. Thanks for watching, and whether I see you next time or not, I'll be back. And thanks to my patron bosses.
There you go. So, yeah, a lot of these games, you're just gonna have a lot of trouble getting them back. Some served, some not, but you get the idea. Some look pretty cool, but Nintendo are just stuck in the past, stuck in their ways, and they're just not gonna change until things are just... Yeah, I got nothing else to say. Thanks for watching, guys. Till next time, see ya.